Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Senior JDF officer at the Center for Sexual Harassment scandal yet to arrive on the island. Air traffic controllers restive over compensation review. And later in sports, Karika Hill nominated for World Athletics Rising Star Award. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shane Masters and here are the details. The senior Jamaica Defense Force JDF officer at the Center for Sexual Harassment scandal, who was recalled from training overseas, is still not yet on the island. The officer was recalled last week as the investigation into the matter continues. Sandy Williams has the details.
It was reported that 16 female soldiers have filed complaints against the senior armyman for sexual harassment. The complaints came to public attention more than a week ago following a Gleaner report. The Jamaica Defense Force JDF confirmed that it was probing allegations of assault and said one officer in training overseas had been recalled to enable further investigations. But on Monday, Rear Admiral Antoinette Weymouth Gorman said the officer at the center of the controversy hasn't been able to fly to Jamaica.
Because in this instant case, there are some administrative complications in terms of the repatriation of the person. They were deployed on a long course, and therefore it requires some time to get them all squared away at the institution they are at and return.
According to the JDF policy, depending on the magnitude of a sexual harassment case, the commander will ask the appropriate superior authority to appoint an investigating officer to carry out an inquiry. Rear Admiral Weymouth Gorman explained the investigative process being adopted in this matter and the status of the individuals involved.
When we convene an investigation, it is usually require that this investigation is concluded expeditiously, and therefore all the persons who are required to face that investigation are made available to the investigating officer. So they are not necessarily carrying on with normal duties in the course of the normal day.
However, it's not clear how long the investigation will take. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Tension is increasing among air traffic controllers as the association representing the workers say it remains in the dark about the government's compensation review. This tension has also escalated following the announcement by the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions, JCTU, that more unions under its umbrella have agreed to accept the wage package submitted by the government under the Compensation Review Program. Herman Green reports.
The Jamaica Air Traffic Controllers Association, JATCA, says the increased tension surrounding the government's compensation review stems from communication issues. JATCA says contact was made with the Ministry of Finance, but their concerns continue to be pushed aside. JATCA President Kurt Solomon says the heads of agreement signed in July this year is being breached by the government. He warns that action will be taken unless the ministry provides an update this month.
This matter cannot be allowed to go beyond November. The engagement is important. This is the livelihood of persons who work in an essential service and also who work in a critical service to the nation's economy. So to have the kind of apathy that we see, because yes, we have reached out to the ministry, no response, or the type of response you get is only an acknowledgement. We don't know where we stand with the compensation review. Things are being published practically daily about it. Now our group is out in the cold. So what that means is that we will now have to put some firm timelines in for ourselves within which we will allow the process of conciliation if it does reach there, but also we will have to act to bring some attention.
Last week, the Jamaica Civil Service Association indicated that it is prepared to sign off on the wage increase aspect of the government's compensation review to cover the period 2022 to 2025. Mr. Solomon says the technical team which his union represents is becoming restive over a wage claim that is yet to be settled by the government.
That could see us taking action on that matter, which would have implications for the air traffic controllers working. And to put it quite bluntly, if we do take action and that matter is not resolved, the air traffic controllers would not be able to work without the support of the technical teams.
Mr. Solomon has expressed displeasure with the level of engagement from the Ministry of Finance about issues affecting members.
We have written about it several times. We have written to the highest level. We have spoken to the Ministry of Labour about it. but we're not getting the resolution to that matter. We have had occasion to have meetings with the Ministry of Finance, and we find their attitude to be less than desirable. They practically come to the meetings and then tell us that they're not there to answer our concerns. We wrote a 3-page letter with about 14 areas of concerns. They practically told us that they are not answering those concerns. They cherry pick maybe one or two, and then they speak around the subject.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
The Jamaica Fire Brigade completed its fire safety training program in the parish of St. James last Thursday. Now, over 30 children from 6 primary schools in the parish and the children from all the vulnerable groups were trained and participated in a graduation exercise. Acting Superintendent of the Fire Brigade in St. James, Rudolph Seaton, says since the implementation of this initiative, there has been a decrease in the number of fires and loss of lives across the island. However, Mr. Seaton is still calling on citizens to practice fire safety measures.
For 2022, I can tell you that to date we have 50 dwelling house fires in which we have 5 persons being injured and 89 persons homeless. This, of course, put a lot of strain on our limited resources within the Jamaica Fire Brigade. So we want to continue to educate the population and to inform them as to safe fire prevention practices throughout the parish.
Mr. Seaton says the fire brigade is also faced with other challenges, including prank calls and low-hanging electricity wires.
We are trying our best to see, how we can educate the citizenry within these communities to cut back on the level of prank calls, because it affects us in terms of our limited resources. And sometimes when we respond to these prank calls, it means that we might have a genuine emergency within the township or other places that we could have responded to and make a difference.
There is also the concern that buildings across the island are not being built with the necessary infrastructure for fire safety.
The new building code stipulates going forward what is required when buildings are being constructed. So we are having some challenges now, but being futuristic, we are hoping that the new building code will help to mitigate some of these. And with these laws being enforced, then it should make it a bit better for us. And we should be able to have less persons with disabilities and lives being lost as a result of fires and other fire-related emergencies.
Several persons have been hospitalized following an 8-vehicle collision along Constant Spring Road in St. Andrew this morning. The crash took place close to the Dunrobin Avenue intersection when a speeding bus slammed into the back of a green Volkswagen van. Now, the impact forced a chain reaction of collisions as the van crashed into a grey Toyota car and several other vehicles ahead of it. Now, 8 vehicles were damaged in the crash. The incident caused a traffic pileup in the area, with motorists being advised to use alternative routes. The vehicles were eventually cleared from the roadway.
In the world of business, Jamaica's productivity continues to lag behind the region. President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, Keith Duncan, says local efficiency in the workforce has declined.
Our productivity as a average worker output in US dollars, right? We are at $11,700 10 years ago. We're now at 10,000. Domrep has moved from 14,000 to 19,000. Our output and productivity as a per citizen is falling. Per worker in the workforce. And even tourism.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories. Here's Sandra Williams.
In the region, the government of Suriname and the United States have signed an agreement for greater drug control and law enforcement. This agreement is part of the implementation of the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, CBSI. CBSI is a partnership between the United States and Caribbean countries that aims to increase security in the region. In this regard, joint efforts are being made to reduce illegal trade. On the international scene, an overnight shooting at a private party in Houston left one person dead and 2 others injured. Police say around 50 people were at the party Monday night at an entertainment hall. The police arrived to find a man with a gunshot wound. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 other people were also rushed to the hospital, but there is no word on what led to the shooting. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
That's the midday news. I'm Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, have a good afternoon.